The North TOngu District Chief Executive Divine Osborne Fenu has highlighted substantial strides in facilitating the return of students to schools in flood-affected areas within his jurisdiction. While some educational institutions have reopened, others have deferred resumption to facilitate the relocation of flood victims. The DCE, Osborne Fenu, has further appealed for assistance in restoring normalcy to the lives of those impacted by the floods. Citi News' Desmond Selassie-Agor provides more details in this report.
Academic activities have recommenced in numerous schools across Mepe and other flood-affected communities in the three TOngu districts. Following months of closure, students and learners have returned to classrooms. Erected tents accommodate learners as some classrooms are still occupied by flood victims. During a visit to the flood-affected region by the ECOWAS representative in Ghana, District Chief Executive Divine Osborne Fenu expressed satisfaction with the significant progress made in facilitating the return of students to schools. Resumption in certain areas has been delayed to facilitate the relocation of flood victims, leading to missed lesson hours. However, Osborne Fenu assured that this issue would be addressed.
We have asked that reopening be postponed for a number of weeks. We still believe that we'll work out things before that time passes, so that classrooms, teaching and learning can resume immediately. Lost about 3 weeks already, and so a lot will be needed to be done for our people to catch up those lost periods. So we believe that things will be resolved as soon as possible.
The DCE commended the ECOWAS representative and the government for their support, noting that life is gradually returning to normal.
We've made a lot of progress. The other time, last week, the UNICEF brought some tents. One has been sent to Fojoku. The rest are also been erected in some of the camps in Mepe, and teaching and learning are ongoing in those tents. And so there's a lot being done to ensure that our people go back to their classrooms to study. So progress has been made, a lot of progress will be made. And I believe that very soon all these things will become a thing of the past.
ECOWAS representative in Ghana, Ambassador Baba Gana Wakil, shared that a comprehensive response is in preparation to improve the lives of the affected communities.
We came with food items, toiletries, essential items, vegetable oil, rice, name it. And school children, item for school children. As you have mentioned, education is one of the casualties of this disaster. And this is, like I said, our first response at my level as the representative of the ECOWAS Commission in Accra. And I am sure that a more comprehensive response will follow from ECOWAS headquarters when a needs assessment has been done by the Interministerial Committee and a comprehensive report has been submitted to government.
Away from that, the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, has expressed his displeasure with the President over his silence on the Criminal Offences Amendment Bill of 2022, which relates to witchcraft. The private member's bill, sponsored by the Member of Parliament for Medina, Francis Xavier Susu, was passed in July 2023 with the aim of preventing attacks on alleged witches and prohibiting any persons from operating as witch doctors or witch finders. However, the Speaker says the President has failed to communicate to Parliament whether he assents or disapproves of the bill as constitutionally required.
The Criminal Offences Amendment Bill 2022 was passed by Parliament in July 2023 to prevent attacks on alleged witches, prohibit any persons from operating as a witch doctor or a witch finder. During proceedings in Parliament on Monday, the Speaker, Alban Bagbin, expressed worry over the failure of President Akufo-Addo to communicate to Parliament on his approval or otherwise of the bill as constitutionally required.
When the President refuses to assent to a bill, he shall, within 14 days after the refusal, A, state in a memorandum to the Speaker any specific provisions of the bill which, in his opinion, should be reconsidered by Parliament, including his recommendations for amendments, if any. So there's a process, there's a procedure of doing this. And for us not to even receive any communication from the presidency, even to acknowledge receipt or to say they have problem with it, that definitely is unacceptable.
I'm aware that the bills, after approval, after passage by this House, was sent to the President months ago, Mr. Speaker. It's almost 2 months now. So clearly, Mr. Speaker, there is a constitutional breach. And this House must take steps to deal with the constitutional breach that we have seen on the criminal amendment bill and that of the witchcraft amendment bill. Mr. Speaker, it's important that we take steps to deal with that.
In reacting to the Speaker's concern, the Majority Leader, Seiche Mensah Bonsu, says the President has not breached any constitutional requirements because the bill has not been presented to him due to some associated challenges that ought to be rectified.
Going through, I realized that there were major challenges, things that Parliament ought to have paid attention to. Unfortunately, I don't know whether it was because they were rushing through, they did not pay attention to them. Now, do you send that bill in that state to the President for his assent only for it to be, for it to come back? Or maybe for the President in the process of assenting to it to chance upon these mistakes and send them back to us? Is that what you want to do? So I think the discussion between I and the Speaker was that, okay, let's hold on. On these two, there are two bills. One is the Criminal Offences Amendment Bill, what is called the Anti-Witchcraft, and then Wildlife Resources Bill, that also came to Parliament and we assented to it. Right? These are the two.
The House continued with its debate on the 2024 budget presented by the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta.
Remove all taxes. If you tax yourself and bring it and share it free of charge. And don't sample, don't use women to sample anything. If you want to start any sample by local manufacturers, just start with another company. We have other companies that produce things. But this one, we are pleading that the government should make sure that our rural communities, as Jenana Opokwa did in John Mahama's time, send it to them free of charge, and we mock them in this house and the whole Ghana. Now, we are pleading they should start it because these guys are suffering. These guys are suffering, and Mr. Speaker, all they need is somebody to speak on their behalf. They are voiceless, they are helpless, and all they need is for women to stand in for them. So when my sister stood up, I thought she was going to support me so that we plead for the government to start sharing sanitary pads for the rural schools, rural communities, our women in the rural communities who cannot afford 3 square meals a day. This is all we are crying for. Mr. Speaker, I will tender the evidence so that you go and investigate.